You are in a room and suddenly the temperature rises. Someone has just spoken your name. They have asked a loaded question, delivered a passive-aggressive insult, or challenged your authority in front of an audience. The chatter stops. The ambient noise fades. Every head turns in your direction. You can feel the weight of their gaze on your skin. You feel a sudden, violent spike of cortisol in your bloodstream. Your chest tightens. Your mind races, desperately searching for the perfect comeback, the perfect defense, the perfect excuse. You are trapped in the spotlight. In this moment, the aggressor is standing in the dark, safe and comfortable, while you are pinned under the blinding, unforgiving beam of public scrutiny. The amateur panics under this light. The amateur believes that because they were asked a question, they must provide an answer. The amateur believes that because they were attacked, they must defend their honor. They begin to speak. They explain. They justify. They raise their voice. And with every word they utter, they dig their own grave. They perform for the audience, dancing like a puppet on the strings pulled by the aggressor. The warlord does not dance. The warlord knows that he who controls the spotlight controls the reality of the room. When the aggressor shines the light on the warlord does not sweat. The warlord does not defend. The warlord simply reaches out, grabs the fixture, and forcefully rotates the blinding beam directly into the eyes of the aggressor. Sun Tzu said, "The clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him." Today we are going to teach you the dark psychological maneuver of redirection. We are going to teach you how to weaponize the spotlight effect. We will show you how to strip the burden of proof from your own shoulders and crush your enemy under its weight. We will teach you how to answer an attack not with a defense, but with a meta-interrogation that dismantles the aggressor's frame and exposes their malice to the world. You are going to learn how to stop being the suspect and start being the interrogator. Welcome to the Art of Conquest. Part 1. The Physics of the Spotlight, the Burden of Proof. To master redirection, you must first understand the invisible laws of social physics. Every social interaction, every negotiation, and every argument has a flow of energy. We call this the burden of proof. Imagine the burden of proof as a heavy, leaden box. When an aggressor attacks you, why is your project behind schedule? Or, why are you wearing that? They are throwing this heavy lead box into your hands. The box represents the obligation to explain reality. The person holding the box is in a state of submission. They are the subordinate. They are the child explaining to the parent why the window is broken. They are the defendant explaining to the judge where they were on the night of the crime. The person who threw the box is the authority. They get to sit back, cross their arms, and judge the quality of your explanation. The amateur catches the box. The amateur says, "My project is behind schedule because the vendor was late and I was sick." And the amateur is now carrying the heavy weight of justification. The warlord refuses to catch the box. When the box is thrown, the warlord steps aside, lets it crash to the floor, and then orders the aggressor to pick it back up. You must internalize this absolute law of power. He who explains loses. The moment you begin to justify your existence, your choices, or your actions to an enemy, you have surrendered your sovereignty. You have agreed that they have the right to judge you. The spotlight effect is the tactical process of refusing the defense and demanding an explanation for the attack. You shift the focus from the content of what they said to the intent of why they said it. Part 2. The Four Pillars of Redirection. How do you grab the spotlight and turn it? You do not use force. You use the aggressor's own momentum. You use their words as the fulcrum. There are 4 specific verbal pillars you must master. Pillar 1. The motive probe. The aggressor hides their malice behind the guise of a simple question or a joke. You must drag their malice out of the shadows and force them to look at it. When they deliver the insult, you do not respond to the insult. You question the psychological drive behind it. The phrases, "What were you hoping to achieve by saying that?" What is your intention behind that question? Why do you feel the need to bring that up right now? When you ask these questions, you freeze their brain. They were prepared for you to defend the insult. They were not prepared to defend their own psychological state. Pillar 2, the definition demand. Aggressors love to use vague, emotionally loaded words. You're being difficult. That's a stupid idea. You're acting crazy. Vague words are broadswords. They do massive, messy damage. You must force the aggressor to trade their broadsword for a scalpel. You force them to define their terms. The phrases, "What exactly do you mean by difficult?" Define stupid in the context of this specific data set. Can you be more specific about what crazy looks like to you? When you demand a definition, you force the aggressor into the logical realm. Bullies operate in the emotional realm. When forced to explain their logic, they usually stutter because there is no logic. There is only raw, uncalibrated hostility. Pillar 3, the mirror of absurdity. Sometimes the attack is so ridiculous, or the manipulation is so blatant, that asking a question is too much effort. Instead, you become a perfect, emotionless mirror. You repeat their exact words back to them, but you do it slowly, with a tone of cold, scientific fascination. The execution, aggressor. If you really cared about this team, you'd work the weekend for free. Warlord, pausing, looking at them. So your position is that my value to this team is determined by my willingness to work without financial compensation. You strip away their emotional manipulation and rephrase their request as a dry, absurd contract. When they hear their own manipulation spoken back to them in a clinical tone, the spotlight exposes how toxic they are. They will almost always backpedal. Well, no, I didn't mean it like that. Pillar 4, the meta frame, naming the game. This is the highest level of redirection. You step completely outside the conversation and comment on the dynamic itself. You become the director of the movie, commenting on the actor's performance. The phrases, "It seems like you are trying to pick a fight. Is everything okay? You seem very invested in making me look bad today. Let's talk about that. I notice that every time I present a solution, you find a problem, but you offer no alternatives. What is your actual goal here?" You have exposed the machinery. You have shown them that you see the strings pulling the puppet. Part 3, the corporate kill box simulations in the boardroom. The office is a battlefield of passive aggression. It is where cowards try to steal status without taking risks. You must use the spotlight to incinerate them. Simulation 1, the saboteur in the meeting. You are giving a presentation. You propose a new marketing strategy. A rival colleague who wants your job leans back in their chair, smirks, and says loudly, "Yeah, we tried something exactly like that 3 years ago. It was a complete disaster. It burned 50 grand. But sure, let's try it again." The room goes dead silent. The executives look at you. The spotlight is burning your retinas. The amateurs move. The amateur defends the idea. This is different. The market has changed. The algorithms are updated. By defending, you admit that your idea is on trial. You look desperate. The warlords move. You stop the presentation. You look directly at the saboteur. You do not look angry. You look mildly curious. You execute the motive probe combined with the definition demand. John, that's an interesting historical data point. Since you were here for that failure, can you walk the executive team through the exact logistical bottlenecks that caused the $50,000 loss 3 years ago and explain precisely how those specific bottlenecks mirror the architecture I just presented? Analyze the redirection. You took the heavy lead box and threw it directly into John's lap. John was trying to take a cheap shot from the cheap seats. You just dragged him onto the stage and handed him a microphone. John doesn't know the exact logistical bottlenecks. John was just trying to make you look bad. Now John is stammering. "Well, it was just a general... The vibe was wrong." You watch him drown. You let the executives watch him drown. Then you deliver the kill shot. If you don't have the specifics of why it failed, then we are comparing apples to ghosts. Let's return to the actual data. You take your spotlight back, but now it is a crown. Simulation 2, the toxic boss's interrogation. Your boss calls you into their office. They love to micromanage and intimidate. "Boss, why didn't you CC me on that email to the client? Are you trying to hide things from me? Do you think you run this department? The amateur. No, I'm so sorry, I just forgot. It was moving fast. I'll CC you on everything from now on. Submission, fear, weakness. The warlord. You sit comfortably. You do not break eye contact. You execute the frame break. I didn't CC you because it was a routine logistical update, and you previously mentioned your inbox was overflowing. But let's address the second half of your statement. You asked if I'm trying to hide things from you. What have I done in my tenure here to make you feel that you cannot trust my transparency? Analyze the redirection. You answered the minor logistical question quickly, but you instantly pivoted to the hostile frame. You flipped the script. You are no longer defending your email habits. The boss is now defending their paranoia. You forced them to justify their accusation. Because they have no proof that you are hiding things, they will look irrational. Boss. Well, I just need to be in the loop. Warlord. Understood. I will CC you on the routine updates moving forward. You complied with the logistics, but you dominated the psychological dynamic. You taught them that attacking your character will result in an uncomfortable interrogation for them. Part 4. The social and romantic arena, exposing the manipulator. The spotlight effect is not just for the boardroom. It is highly effective against the passive-aggressive friends, the toxic family members, and the manipulative romantic partners. Simulation 3. The guilt-tripping partner. You are getting ready to go out with your friends. Your partner, who has an anxious attachment style and wants to control your time, sits on the couch looking miserable. Partner. Are you really going out again? You always leave me here alone. I guess your friends are just more important to you than I am. The spotlight is on your morality. Are you a bad partner? The amateur. That's not true. I stayed in with you all week. I just need one night out. Please don't be mad. You are negotiating for your freedom. You are rewarding their guilt trip. The warlord. You stop putting on your shoes. You turn to them. You execute the metaframe. I am going out for 3 hours to see people I have known for 10 years. You are framing this as evidence that I don't care about you. What are you hoping will happen by making me feel guilty right as I walk out the door? Do you want me to stay home out of obligation? Or do you want me to go but feel miserable the whole time? Analyze the redirection. You expose the exact mechanics of their manipulation. When you lay the options out plainly, do you want me to stay out of guilt or go and be miserable? You corner their malice. They cannot say, yes, I want you to be miserable. They are forced to abandon the tactic. Partner. I don't want you to be miserable. I'm just having a bad day. Warlord. I understand. Let's talk about your bad day tomorrow morning over coffee. Have a good night. You redirected the light, exposed the trap, and walked out the door with your frame intact. Simulation 4, the public insult, the dinner party. You are at a family gathering. An uncle who is deeply insecure about his own finances makes a joke about your career choice. Uncle. So you're still doing that little freelance thing, huh? When are you going to get a real job with a pension? The family chuckles nervously. The spotlight is on you. The amateur. It is a real job. I make good money actually, and I have freedom. You are showing your belly. You are proving his words hurt you. The warlord. You put your fork down. You look at him. You execute the stare, followed by the mirror of absurdity. Uncle Bob, I run a business that generates revenue and allows me complete sovereignty over my time. You are referring to it as a little freelance thing and implying it isn't real. Why is my career path making you so uncomfortable? Analyze the redirection. You did not yell. You did not insult his job. You simply took the psychological subtext of his insult, his discomfort/insecurity, and dragged it into the blinding light of the dining room. He thought he was the predator. You just put him on a microscope slide. He will sputter. I'm not uncomfortable. I'm just asking. You hold the silence. You let him sit in his own awkwardness. Then you smoothly change the subject to the person sitting next to him. You have executed a flawless social assassination. He will never challenge you in public again. Part 5. The nonverbal spotlight, the power of the void. Words are only half the weapon. The other half is physiology. If you use the Warlord's scripts, but your voice is shaking, your hands are trembling, and your eyes are darting around the room, the redirection will fail. The aggressor will see that your words are a bluff. They will realize that internally you are still carrying the heavy lead box. You must master the nonverbal spotlight. 1. The 3-second rule, the silent mirror. When the aggressor attacks, your first instinct is to immediately fire back. Do not. If you respond instantly, you are reacting to their kinetic energy. You are on their rhythm. When they finish speaking, you must wait 3 full seconds. 1, 2, 3. In those 3 seconds, keep your eyes locked on theirs. Keep your face completely neutral. Relax your jaw. Silence is an amplifier. When you remain silent, the echo of their insult hangs in the air. The silence forces them to listen to what they just said. Often, the silence is so heavy that the aggressor will break it themselves, retracting their statement before you even speak. I didn't mean it to sound that harsh. The silence is the most blinding spotlight in the universe. 2. The pivot of the body. When someone attacks you verbally, your body will naturally try to square up to them, fight, or turn away from them, flight. You must do neither. If you are sitting in a chair when they attack, do not lean forward aggressively. Do not shrink back. You lean back, but you tilt your head slightly in a posture of scientific curiosity. You treat them not as a threat, but as a fascinating, slightly defective specimen. This body language communicates absolute untouchable status. It says, "You cannot hurt me, but your attempt to do so is highly amusing." 3. The pitch drop. When people are defensive, their vocal cords tighten, and the pitch of their voice goes up. They sound squeaky. They sound frantic. When you execute your redirection, you must consciously lower the pitch of your voice. You speak slightly slower and slightly deeper than you normally would. A low, slow voice implies total control. It is the voice of the judge handing down a sentence, not the defendant pleading for their life. Part 6. Defense against the dark arts. When the spotlight is turned on you, you are learning the Warlord's playbook, but you are not the only one reading it. What happens when you encounter a highly skilled manipulator, a sociopath, or another warlord, and they use the redirection on you? What happens when you ask a legitimate question, and they try to turn the spotlight back onto your motives to avoid answering? You must recognize the maneuver, and you must ruthlessly break their mirror. Simulation, the counter redirection. You are a manager. You ask an employee why a specific metric is failing. Why did our conversion rate drop 15% this week? The employee, a manipulator, tries to use the metaframe to escape the spotlight. Employee, you seem incredibly stressed about these numbers lately. Are you feeling pressure from the higher-ups? Why are you coming at me with this energy? They are trying to put the spotlight on your emotional state to escape the box of accountability. How to break it? You do not defend your emotional state. You do not say, "I'm not stressed." You acknowledge their mirror, shatter it, and violently drag the spotlight back to the objective reality. The Warlord's counter, "My energy and my stress levels are irrelevant to the data. I asked a specific mathematical question about the 15% drop in conversion. I need the objective answer to that question now." You refuse to engage with the psychological game. You build a firewall between their distraction and the actual issue. When you refuse to look at their mirror, the mirror becomes useless. They are trapped back in the spotlight, and they must answer the question. Part 7. The agree and escalate. The ultimate disarmament. There is one final maneuver in the spotlight arsenal. It is reserved for when the aggressor uses a truth against you. What if they shine the spotlight on a mistake you actually made? What if their insult is rooted in a fact? Aggressor, you completely failed the presentation yesterday. You looked like an amateur. If this is true, you cannot ask, "What do you mean by that?" Everyone knows what they mean. If you try to excuse it, you carry the heavy box. Instead, you execute the agree and escalate. You do not just accept the spotlight. You grab a magnifying glass and point it at yourself. You own the flaw so completely and with such terrifying lack of ego that the aggressor loses all leverage. The Warlord, you are absolutely right. I failed the presentation. I was unprepared. My slides were chaotic, and my delivery was abysmal. It was unacceptable. You pause. You let them absorb the shock of your complete lack of resistance. The warlord continues. Now that we have established that undeniable fact, what is your strategic recommendation for repairing the client relationship? Or did you just bring it up to admire the wreckage? Analyze the kill. You stole their weapon. They wanted to expose you, so you exposed yourself faster and more brutally than they ever could. By owning the failure without an ounce of emotional defense, you prove that your ego is impenetrable. Then you instantly turn the spotlight back on them, demanding that they provide utility instead of just criticism. You transform their attack into an obligation for them to do work. Part 8. Internal Alchemy, the Death of the Apology. Why is it so difficult to execute these maneuvers? Why does your brain default to defense? It is because you suffer from the disease of the good boy or the good girl. You have been conditioned to believe that maintaining social harmony is your responsibility. You believe that if someone is upset with you or if someone attacks you, it is your job to fix their feelings. You have been trained to apologize for taking up space. To become the warlord, you must undergo internal alchemy. You must kill the reflex to apologize. An apology is a transfer of power. When you make a genuine mistake that harms someone, you offer a strategic apology. You make it right. But when you apologize for setting a boundary, when you apologize for asking a question, when you apologize for existing, you are bleeding status from your jugular vein. The next time an aggressor attacks you, notice the physical sensation in your stomach. Notice the urge to say, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way." Swallow those words, let them burn in your throat. Replace the apology with the inquiry. Replace, "I'm sorry if I offended you" with, "Why did that statement offend you?" Replace, "I'm sorry, let me explain." With what part of my logic are you struggling to comprehend? You must rewire your neural pathways. You must realize that you are not the defendant in the courtroom of their ego. You are the judge in the courtroom of your own reality. Part 9. The Path of the Predator. The world is filled with psychological predators. They hunt for the weak. They look for the people who over-explain. They look for the people who sweat under the spotlight. They feed on the kinetic energy of your defensiveness. When you stop defending, when you stop explaining, when you become the mirror, you stop looking like prey. The predator approaches you, flashes the light in your face, and expects you to cower. Instead, you grab the light, shine it into their dark corners, and say, "I see you. I see what you are doing. Explain yourself." The predator will blink. The predator will step back. The predator will realize they have made a grave miscalculation. They will realize they are not hunting a deer. They have walked into the den of a warlord. Your mission for this week is simple. Find the person in your life who constantly makes you explain yourself. The boss, the partner, the friend. The next time they throw the heavy box of justification at you, let it hit the floor. Ask them why they threw it. Watch their face. Watch the power transfer from their hands into yours. Stop carrying their weight. Turn the light around. Make them sweat. This is the way of the art of conquest. On this channel, we cover a range of topics like the one in this video. If you enjoy this type of content, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, we may never see each other again. See you again soon.